Welcome to Ohio Roots, the official podcast of the Ohio Genealogical Society. Join us as we embark on a captivating journey through Ohio's rich genealogy, history, and abundant resources. Hosted by me, OGS Executive Director Noel Poirier, this podcast brings you insightful conversations with a diverse array of guests, from OGS members, chapter leaders, and staff, to renowned genealogists, historians, and influential figures within the genealogical community. Each episode delves into fascinating topics and captivating stories. So grab your headphones, hit that play button, and join us on this enthralling journey of Ohio's roots. My guest today on the OGS Ohio Roots podcast is the president of the Carroll County Chapter of OGS, Jay Stoneman. And of course, I wanted to talk to Jay about what the Carroll County Chapter is up to and the programs they offer and things like that. But Jay is also one of the youngest chapter presidents that OGS has. Jay's only in his mid-20s. And I also wanted to talk to him today about, how do we go about attracting a younger audience to OGS and to genealogy in general? And I think we had a really nice conversation, and I hope you'll enjoy it. Well, Jay, thanks for joining us today for the Ohio Roots podcast to talk to us a little bit about the Carroll County Chapter of OGS and also some other things that may pop into our brains as we go through our little conversation. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Great. I don't know if you've heard any of the podcasts yet, but usually what I do is I start with asking everybody what it is that got them interested or triggered their interest in genealogy or family history.
Well, I guess I've always kind of had an interest in history and genealogy. Since I was little, I've always been real close with my grandparents and old stories, any older people, old things. I've just always liked that kind of stuff. So I would say what actually started me in researching, I think I was in college and I was on eBay just like doing a search for anything Carroll County related that I could buy, and there was an old Civil War, like a roster poster that somebody had for sale. Wow. And there was James Stoneman on there, and I thought, I wonder if I'm related to him. And so then I like to figure things out if I don't know something, and so I just started Googling and trying to figure out how I could determine whether I was related to him or not, and then it just sort of went from there. It just grew, and I just thought, well, who else am I related to? And then I just started researching back as far as I could. So,
has your family been in Carroll County a long time?
Yeah. We since before the county was formed. So yeah, early 1800s, I think, is whenever the first Stoneman bought land there. So it's been a while.
So that's a nice little personal story. It's kind of funny. I mean, it's similar to my experience, I guess. I didn't start doing. I mean, I'm a historian. My academic training's in history, but I was given a ledger book by my mother, who had been given to her by her great grandmother, and it was just a book of poetry by an ancestor that everybody only knew as Grandpa Murphy. And so once I had that book, I had to figure out who this person was and what their connection was. So yeah, I can relate to that kind of single document kind of getting you to where you want to go, which is kind of neat. Talk to me a little bit, if you don't mind. I'm not an Ohioan, I'm a Pennsylvanian. So learning all of my counties is a challenge. Talk to me a little bit about where Carroll County is and a little bit about its history.
So we are Eastern Ohio. So we border with Tuscarawas and Jefferson and Stark and Harrison and Columbiana. And I think we were taken from all of those counties. We were formed in 1832 on Christmas Day. Okay. And then our county seat is Carrollton, which is where I live. Okay. And so basically the county was formed because Carrollton, which was called Centerville whenever it was founded in 1815, was kind of in the center of all of these other county seats. And everybody kind of had to travel to do business in different directions. And there were a bunch of county lines running through the town. And so an early businessman decided it would be in the best interest to try to make that, the central location for all of our business affairs and stuff. And so he saw the need for a new county and made several trips down to Columbus. And so there's kind of some neat stories about whenever, news reached Centerville, which is now Carrollton, about the new county being formed and all the parades that they had and all the celebration in the streets and stuff. So yeah, it's just
it's neat. Yeah, I mean, I realized that after we set up this interview that I actually live in New Philadelphia. I thought to myself, I should have just arranged to see in person somewhere to do this interview. We could have done it a lot easier, I think. Yeah. Talk to me a little bit. I know you're president of the Carroll County Chapter. You just started in that role. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Can you tell me a little bit about the history of the chapter?
I believe we were started, we were founded in like the mid 1970s. And they started out, they had like a room in the courthouse, I was told, because we have a lot of the old courthouse records and stuff. So they were housed there. And then whenever they started to kind of outgrow that, well, actually, we also had our own, like sort of like the library of our personal books, I guess I would say, in one of the founding members' homes. She just had the library out of her house, and she would actually host overnight stays and stuff. People would come from out of town to research their genealogy. And since we are on the eastern side of the state, we get a lot of people that, there's a lot of people have passed through here. So they would come and research their families back, and she would have them stay. And anyway, then they started to outgrow that situation, and they wanted to move the courthouse records. So they moved them up to a building that had been donated to the county. It was the old county health department building, and was no longer used. So they moved all of the records books up there. So then we were in that library for a little while. And then when the health department decided they were going to sell that building, we actually are now moved into the basement of our district library for the county, which has been wonderful. They've been great to work with, and it's a much more climate controlled environment, and just a little bit more of a permanent housing, I think, for us, which has been really great. So,
and that library is right in Carrollton then?
Yes. Yep. Just actually up the street, about 2 doors from where the health department building was that we were in.
Okay. So you didn't have to move stuff very far. That's good.
Still a lot to move that many big, heavy books up there. And we had a moving company help, but it was still a lot of, loading the back of my truck and going up there and unloading it. And a lot of those books are falling apart and old and heavy. And so it was still quite an undertaking, even though it wasn't far, but very, very thankful for that. So,
So how long have you been associated with the Carroll County chapter? And I asked that simply because, the folks listening can't see you. And you are much younger than most of the chapter presidents that I speak to.
Yeah, I'm almost 25. So.
You're almost 25. All right. Well, and so I think I'm curious as to how you got connected with the chapter and how you started to get involved with the chapter.
I think I saw online, since I'm almost 25. So that's my, I saw online. That's how a lot of our people my age, that they had like one of the old 1874 Carroll County plat maps for sale. And I love maps and history in general. And so I saw that. And so I thought, well, I'm going to stop in and see if I can buy it. And so I went in, and the volunteer that was working that day, who was the president right before me, she was volunteering in the library the day that I stopped in. And she is a wonderful storyteller. I mean, she's a great historian and researcher, but then she knows how to turn them into stories and make them very, very entertaining and interesting to listen to. And so she kind of hooked me, the first time I was there, and I started going in. I was in college, so I just had to stop. They were open on Fridays. So on my way home from school, usually on the weekends, I would stop and go in, and I got into researching through her, I guess, and got to know more and more of the members, and then started getting involved. I was a trustee last year, and then she decided she didn't want the, all of the duties, I guess, of being president, and wanted to pass it on to somebody. And since I was somebody who was younger, who was involved, she wanted to start teaching me kind of the ropes of how things are done. And so I lean on her quite a bit, and a lot of the other members for guidance. And I'm not at all claiming to know what I'm doing, but I'm happy to learn and help out, and hopefully help carry the chapter on. So,
you raised an interesting point, because you mentioned you saw the document the map that you were particularly interested in online. I'm assuming it was probably on a Facebook group or something like that. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, somewhere.
But it raises the question that organizations like OGS, NGS, any organization has, which is, what can we do? Because, we understand that the vast majority of our membership are going to be older. The vast majority of them are women. That's also part of the demographic. But we still need to make that effort, to reach out, because we want to continue to grow and thrive as organizations. What do you think an organization like, well, say any other OGS chapter or OGS itself can do to make what we do in genealogy and family history maybe more appealing?
That's a good question. I've thought about that a lot, and what the right balance is, because there's a lot of value to actually coming into the library and talking to people and going through some of the records. And so I worry about because we have a lot of multiple projects going on right now to try to digitize a lot of our collections and make them available. And so I think that's wonderful. It helps preserve them. It puts in front of people that, like I said, we had a lot of people that would travel to Carroll County, taking their ancestors back and doing genealogy. And so it helps them if they're on, the other side of the United States or wherever, that they can have access to things. So I think digitalization is a good thing. But where's the line of still encouraging people to come in? Because there's a lot of benefits of like whenever I went in for the first time and hearing all those stories and meeting new people that are also interested in it. So that's one side of it is digitalizing things, digitizing things, but not going too far with it. I'm not sure exactly what that looks like. The other thing, I guess, would be just through social media. There are some other historical societies and groups in our area that have developing Facebook pages, and they'll post old pictures from their collection, and we also have several like groups on Facebook, like Carrollton groups, and people will post their old pictures from their collection or their family or whatever. And it's a lot of fun to go through the comments, and people will start saying, "Oh, remember whenever this store was down this street, or remember old Mr. So and so that used to give out here." And so you get a lot of memories that way. So I think Facebook is a strong tool, or any of the social media is a strong tool if it's used in the right way. And that's something that we want to kind of develop, is putting some of our collection on there just to kind of spark conversation that way. And I think there's a lot of interest out there. A lot of people like sharing memories. Even a lot of younger people will comment and ask questions. And I think the interest is out there. It's just the best way to reach people and come to them or get to them, because a lot of people don't have time, to come in the library on a Wednesday afternoon whenever we have a volunteer there. So that is the other nice part about social media. It's there 24/7. If you're on your phone late at night, you can get on and check things and see things and join a conversation. And so it's a valuable tool, but I don't think we want to rely on it for everything, and where the line is and exactly how that's going to end up. I don't know. I don't want to get too strong with it, I guess, but it is a tool.
The Ohio Roots podcast is brought to you by the Ohio Genealogical Society, the premier gateway for discovering your Ohio family history. To learn more about joining, visit www.ogs.org.
If you enjoy listening to the Ohio Roots podcast, we would really appreciate it if you could go to whatever platform it is that you listen and give us a good review. Reviews help us get more listeners and reach more people with Ohio Roots and what we're trying to do with the Ohio Genealogical Society. So please leave us a nice review, and thanks for listening. You made a good point, I think, when you mentioned how you got involved, which was really, it sounds like somebody really stepped up to mentor you and kind of show you what was going on, what was there, and what could be interesting about it. And I wonder how we generate a cadre of people who are willing to mentor, because it sounds like that's an important component to it. The storytelling and getting you engaged with it. You mentioned you're digitizing some things. Talk to me a little bit about these projects that the chapter's undertaking right now.
The main one currently is all of the newspapers, all the Carroll County newspapers. We have a very dedicated individual who has gone through and actually made spreadsheets of all of the newspapers that have ever been in Carroll County and all of their years. And then she's gone through and tried to find copies of all of them, whether they're on microfilm or physical copies. And whenever she was doing that process, she realized that there were some copies of papers that were just sitting on shelves in the back of our current newspaper office that had not been microfilmed. There was only that was the only copy that we knew of that existed. And, if there's a flood or a fire or something, all that the information from that year is gone. And so anyway, so she's been heading up a very successful effort to raise all the funds to microfilm everything or get possession of the microfilms of all of the ones that have already been microfilmed. And then digitize all of those and make them available so they can be and copied or printed or everything and search. That's the other big thing is that it's searchable. So because there's so much valuable information in the newspapers. I mean, a lot of the day-to-day things that you don't find in any other source. So that's probably the biggest one that we're doing right now. We have Also, file cabinets of glass negatives from some of the
Oh,
local,
wow.
Different photographers in town that
Hmm.
ended up being donated to our society. And so we've gone through
Wow, that's amazing.
and been able to digitize a lot of them. And it's amazing the clarity on those old, 1915 and stuff. I mean, a lot of these are from, and I found a picture of my house and I zoomed in.
Wow.
You can see the print on the curtains hanging in the windows. It's so clear. I mean, it's really amazing. So that's been another project that we've worked on is trying to do that and label them. So anyway, those are a couple of the bigger ones that.
So as you do those things, is there a plan or an intention to make those items accessible for people?
Yeah, right now, a lot of them are just on the computers at our library. I believe the newspaper project will be available through, I think it's through the Ohio History Connection that they'll have. That's who's going to host those for us. But
great.
But yeah, that's another good question is what to make available.
Right.
What to, it comes back to how much we want to encourage people to come into the library and how much do we want to put it out there. But yeah, we do have different means of getting to it. So
I assume the challenges that the Carroll County chapter faces are probably similar to what many chapters face, but I'd be interested to know what challenges you identified.
Everybody getting older. I mean, that's the vast membership are getting older, and they're still active and they're still sharp and they're still wanting to do things, but at the same time they're getting to the point of we want to find people to hand all this off to and start to teach them how to do what we do. And and there's somebody else who's about my age, a couple years older than me, who's also involved and interested in everything. But then we have a few like middle-aged people, I would say, that are involved. But
watch it now.
well, I mean, they're younger than So, but anyway, it's just wanting to find more people to carry it on, I guess, that can.
Right.
And
it's certainly a similar sentiment that I've heard from other chapter leaders who I've spoken to. And again, it gets back to that question that we were talking about a little earlier, which is, what can we do as a larger organization to reach out to that demographic? Are there marketing outlets we should be looking at? Are there, God forbid we do a TikTok? How desperate are we to do that? It certainly is a challenge for every chapter and for the organizations in general, I think.
Yeah. And I think, like I said, I really believe the interest is there in younger people. Yeah. I mean, I really think it is. It's just, people just don't seem to have the time to devote to, and I don't know if that's because I don't know what the full reason is, but it's that way with a lot of organizations, not just genealogy societies. I mean, I see it in a lot of the other groups that I am involved with. It's just nobody seems to want to be joiners anymore. Everybody.
Well, I was going to ask that because I know you can almost blame my generation, which is the Generation X generation, for we never joined anything, and for the most part still don't. So I think we started that ball rolling, I think, and then it seems like with the availability of online resources like the various genealogy sites that are out there, which people assume have everything, which you and I both know they don't. People forget that they need to join organizations like ours in order to really enhance that experience. But I agree with you. I do get the impression people just are not joiners anymore.
Yeah. And community is really important. And I mean, there's something to be said about not being too busy. I mean, having time to just be home and rest. I mean, that's valuable too. But but the more I get involved with things and the more connections I make with other people in the community, I mean, I feel I grow. I feel hopefully others grow. I mean, it's just, I think it's a wonderful thing to be a joiner, at least to an extent. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, I certainly think for this organization, it's useful because again, there's information, not just, the raw information, the data that we have, but it's also the experience of our members that can really help a younger genealogist or younger person interested in genealogy, really kind of refine their craft and get better and better at it. So yeah, I think we're on the same page when it comes to that. Now, I assume you've done your own family genealogy to a great extent, correct?
Yeah, I've worked on it. And actually, the lady that I would say has mentored me about the most, she would always make fun of me because I got lucky a lot of times. I mean, I
Right.
would be searching something and it would always include like the wife's name or, like some things that typically weren't
Right.
included. And then I would, here's a whole genealogy on her family. And I would just start tracing that. And I have definitely hit, a few brick walls like
Right.
everybody else. But
Yeah.
but I do enjoy that. And she taught me how to document things. And, you want to keep track of everything. And so I just started making files on my computer for, each couple, I guess, each mother and father, and then trying to track them for like all the census records and their birth records or death records, just every main, document I could find. And so, yeah, it is a fun thing to work on when I can find time. So,
yeah. Tell me about one of your brick walls.
Oh, I don't know to pull. Well, I guess one would be like, and I'm sure this happens everywhere, but Carroll County, we have a lot of everybody's related. I mean, everybody,
Sure.
And so there were, I think there was, I don't know how many greats grandma that I had, and her, there was somebody else that had the exact same name that lived like right in the same area and same age, and same, everything. So that was kind of difficult to figure out, what maiden name she had versus the other one, and which one was which, to be able to trace that back and then go back the right maternal line. And I think I found it through like a will or something. It listed her maiden name with it, and so I was able to trace back from there. But
that's great.
That is one thing we have. Everybody is related, and that can help in some ways and make it confusing whenever there's a lot of the same names and a lot of the same, family lines that are, 3 brothers married 3 sisters, and so it can get confusing sometimes. But so.
If you had to give advice to someone who was just starting out doing genealogy, what's the best advice you think you'd give them?
Well, we all like preservation. We all like to preserve things. And something that I've started doing is like making voice memos, voice recordings on my phone of older people talking. And
awesome.
And I mean, you can remember stories and you can write things down, but I just think now that we have that, the technology to be able to record audio so easily, it's just, my dad's mom has Alzheimer's pretty badly now, and she's still with us, but she's not the same, of course. And I recorded her telling stories a couple times whenever it was just starting, when she just started the dementia. And even now, before she's even gone, to go back and just listen to her voice and the mannerisms of her voice. And then, of course, the stories themselves are great, but the sayings that she would have, and just I don't know, it's really, I highly recommend doing that, I guess. It's nice.
It's interesting. I mean, you talk about recording it, but a lot of folks that I've spoken to, when I ask them what their best tip is, a lot of them say, speak to the living. Yeah. Because the dead aren't going anywhere.
Right.
So, and I think that's great advice for anybody getting started out. Well, Jay, thank you so much for talking to me today. I'm going to give you a minute if you want to plug Carroll County, when your meetings are, anything you'd like to tell us.
Our meetings are, I think they're the third Tuesday they're the second Tuesday of each month. I should know that off the top of my head.
That's all right.
Not each month. We have it quarterly. So it's the second Tuesday, quarterly. And we are located like I said, the Carroll County District Library in Carrollton. So we would be happy, even if we're not there. I think the girls up in the upstairs in the library, they can get you in touch with us and tell you, when we're there. So.
Okay. Well, great, Jay. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Ohio Roots podcast. Thank you for everything you're doing for Carroll County and genealogy. It's been a real pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for having me.
I think that was a really interesting conversation with Jay, and I want to thank him for taking the time to speak with us today on the OGS Ohio Roots podcast, and to share both what Carroll County is up to with all of their programs and events and activities, as well as to share his thoughts on what we can do as an organization to reach out to younger people who might be interested in genealogy and family history. So thank you, Jay, for joining us on the Ohio Roots podcast, and thank you all for listening. Have a great day.
The Ohio Roots podcast is brought to you by the Ohio Genealogical Society, the premier gateway for discovering your Ohio family history. Hosted by OGS Executive Director Noel Poyer and edited by Luke Poyer. Theme song is Beautiful Ohio, recorded by Bob Stanley and his orchestra in 1944. To learn more about joining the Ohio Genealogical Society, visit www.ogs.org.